Nobody packed a U-Haul and posted about it. There was no big announcement, no "we're relocating" video, no going away party. And yet, over the last 12 months, tens of thousands of Canadians quietly picked a new dot on the map, and most of the country has no idea it's happening. This isn't the Alberta or bust story you've already heard 100 times. Some of these towns aren't even trying to get your attention. One of them just posted its first population win in over 2 decades and barely made the local news. Another is growing so fast, the city planners are already redrawing maps for a population that hasn't arrived yet. We're counting down 11 places where Canadians are relocating right now, using the actual numbers, CMHC rent data, StatsCan migration tables, the real math people are running before they move. Every single one comes with a catch nobody puts in the brochure. Number 11, Belleville, Ontario. While Toronto posted an actual population decline last year, first time in years a major Canadian city has shrunk, a handful of smaller Ontario cities quietly absorbed the overflow. Belleville is one of them. It's been ranked among the country's top relocation destinations by moving company data, even while the province as a whole is losing people to Alberta and BC. Here's the twist. Belleville isn't winning because it's booming. It's winning because it's boring in the best way. Quiet streets, lake access, a 2-hour buffer from Toronto traffic, and rent that hasn't caught up to the GTA's math. But the job market is thin outside healthcare and retail, and if your entire career exists on a Bay Street floor, that commute stops being a bit and starts being your whole week. Number 10, Pembroke, Ontario. Same province, same story, different flavor. Pembroke sits in the Ottawa Valley, and it's part of a pattern moving company data keeps flagging. Ontario is losing people province-wide, but its smaller recreational towns are quietly gaining them. The pitch is simple: river views, a fraction of Ottawa's housing costs, and a pace of life that makes a Tuesday feel like a long weekend. The catch is the one nobody wants to say out loud. Fewer employers means more people building their move around remote work that could get pulled back into an office at any time. You're betting your zip code on a policy you don't control. If you thought Ontario had fully given up on its small towns, wait until you see what's happening 2 provinces over, where an entire city just quietly rebuilt itself around cheap rent and open jobs. Quick pause. If you're the kind of person actually running these numbers before a move, hit like right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people asking the same questions you are. And subscribe, because we track this stuff every month, not just once a year when the census drops. Number 9, Medicine Hat, Alberta. You already know Alberta is the migration story of the decade. What you don't know is that the province's smaller cities are starting to catch the overflow from Calgary and Edmonton themselves. Medicine Hat has shown up on national relocation trackers as a rising growth city, not because of one big employer, but because it's cheap, sunny, and close enough to the 2 big Alberta job markets to commute if you have to. The trade-off is real, though. Medicine Hat's economy still leans heavily on oil and gas and agriculture, which means your job security is tied to commodity prices you'll never influence and can barely predict. Cheap housing is only a win if the paycheck behind it doesn't evaporate the next time oil dips.
Number 8, Lethbridge, Alberta. Lethbridge has been quietly picking up interprovincial migrants for years now, driven by the same math playing out across the province. People leaving Ontario and BC for lower housing costs and Alberta's 0 provincial income tax. It's a university town, which means a younger population and a livelier downtown than most cities its size. It's also famously windy, like your umbrella isn't coming back windy, and winters here don't mess around. You're trading Toronto's rent for Alberta's Chinooks, and depending on your tolerance for weather that changes its mind hourly, that might be the best trade you ever made, or the one you complain about every February. Number 7, Red Deer, Alberta. Sitting almost exactly between Calgary and Edmonton, Red Deer has become the quiet middle option. close enough to both major job markets to be commutable, cheap enough that people are choosing it on purpose rather than settling for it. It's picked up steady interprovincial migration gains as Alberta's bigger cities get relatively less cheap. The honest catch is Red Deer's job market is thinner than either of its bigger neighbors, so a lot of that affordability only works if you're either commuting or working remotely. Move here for the wrong reason, cheap rent alone, and you might find yourself driving further than you planned for a paycheck that isn't actually here. If you think Alberta's small cities are quietly rewriting the map, the next one isn't even in Alberta, and it's rewriting a completely different set of rules. Number 6, Chilliwack, British Columbia. This is the one BC insiders already know and nobody else has caught up to. Chilliwack added roughly 11,700 residents between 2020 and 2025, an 11.6% jump, almost entirely from people leaving Metro Vancouver, Surrey, and Langley, who can't afford a detached home there anymore. The average home runs around $650,000. In Vancouver, that's a down payment. Here's what nobody mentions. Chilliwack is still 100 kilometers from downtown Vancouver, and Highway 1 during rush hour will test every ounce of patience you have. This isn't a city that came to you. It's a city built for people willing to trade time in a car for space in a house. Number 5, Regina, Saskatchewan. Regina's local economic office is planning for the region to hit roughly 370,000 people by 2051, and city planners don't make projections like that unless the growth is already showing up. Average one-bedroom rent sat around $1,255 as of January 2026, one of the cheapest numbers of any provincial capital in the country. The trade-off is the one every prairie city shares. Winters here aren't a season, they're a personality trait, and the job market outside government, agriculture, and healthcare is thin. You'll save a fortune on rent. You'll also own a block heater and know exactly how it works by December. Number 4, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Saskatoon keeps getting grouped with Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, and Moncton in national breakdowns of Canada's fastest-growing mid-sized cities. Young demographics, affordable housing, strong local labor markets. It's the quiet twin to Regina. Similar cost of living, similar prairie honesty, slightly bigger university scene. The catch is geography, plain and simple. Saskatoon is a long way from anywhere else on this list, and if your social life or your career depends on being near a coast or a border, that distance doesn't shrink just because your rent did. Real question for the comments below. Would you actually make one of these moves, or is the rent difference not worth the trade-off? I read every comment on these videos, and honestly, some of the best data points I get for future scripts come straight from people living in these cities right now. Drop your city, drop your honest opinion. Let's argue about it down there. Number 3, Winnipeg, Manitoba. This one is the quietest win on the entire list. In the second quarter of 2025, Manitoba recorded its first net gain from interprovincial migration since 2004. That's over 20 years of people leaving, finally barely reversing. It only added about 106 more people than it lost. That's not a headline number, that's a signal. Winnipeg isn't winning on hype. It's winning because Alberta and BC finally got expensive enough that a prairie capital with dirt-cheap housing started looking reasonable by comparison. The trade-off is one every Winnipegger will tell you unprompted. Humidity that turns July into a sauna, mosquitoes that treat exposed skin like a buffet, and winters that make Regina look mild. Number 2, Moncton, New Brunswick. Moncton grew 21.6% between 2021 and 2025, the fastest growth rate in any metro area in the entire country, expanding from roughly 162,000 people to nearly 196,000. This is the poster child for the whole Atlantic Canada Renaissance, remote workers and retirees leaving expensive eastern cities for cheaper housing and a slower pace of life.
But here's the twist nobody's talking about yet. Moncton's interprovincial migration gain actually turned negative in the most recent year on record, the smallest net figure in 4 years. The wave that built this city's whole 2020s story might already be pulling back out. The quiet risk of moving here in 2026 isn't the winter, it's arriving right as the tide changes. If Moncton is the fastest riser that might be running out of runway, our number 1 is the opposite story entirely. A city that's still accelerating, and most of the country still hasn't clocked it. Number 1, Edmonton, Alberta. For the first time in a decade, Edmonton pulled in more people from other provinces than any other city in Canada, a net gain of 11,742 people in a single year, edging out Calgary. It grew 3.0% between July 2024 and July 2025, the fastest rate of any metro area in the country, adding over 50,000 people for the 3rd straight year, and the average one-bedroom rent in January 2026, around $1,279, barely half of what you'd pay in Toronto. Here's the part that actually matters. Edmonton isn't growing because of one lucky year of oil prices. It's growing because it's the only major city in the country that's posted positive migration from inside its own province for 2 decades straight, on top of pulling people from everywhere else. That's not a boom, that's a foundation. And that's the real story behind this entire list. Every single place we just covered is a small individual decision. A family choosing a cheaper mortgage, a remote worker choosing a bigger backyard, a new grad choosing a province with no income tax. None of them made headlines on their own, but stack all 11 together and you're looking at the actual reshaping of where this country lives, happening one quiet U-Haul at a time, while everyone's still arguing about Toronto and Vancouver. If this changed how you're thinking about your own next move, subscribe. We track exactly this kind of data every month before it turns into a headline. And if you know someone stuck between stay and pay or move and save, send them this video. That's genuinely the most useful thing you can do with it. See you in the next one.